Welcome, everybody, to the Rye Town Council meeting of December 19th, 2017. Please rise. And Assemblyman Otis, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. Heavenly Father, bless this assemblage. Grant us the wisdom to make our every decision fair-minded and in the best interest for all its residents. I kindly ask everybody to please have a moment of silence for Donna DiCrescenzo, the wife of our Highway Superintendent, John DiCrescenzo. Thank you.
Hope, roll call.
Councilperson Lindsey Jackson.
Here.
Councilperson Thomas Nardi.
Here.
Councilperson Anthony Baxter. Councilperson William Villanova.
Here.
And Supervisor Gary Zuckerman.
Here. Tony Baxter will be joining us. He's at a school function. Our first item of business is an unusual one. It's an appreciation ceremony. This is the last meeting for the Town Council of Deputy Supervisor Bill Villanova, who has served on the council for 12 years and as Deputy Supervisor for much of that time. I'm going to speak at the end, but I know that there are other people here who would like to show their appreciation. And Billy, it's been a pleasure serving with you my 2 years as supervisor. But I'll say some more later. I believe we have some proclamations. Mayor Rosenberg.
Yep. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
I have a proclamation from the Village of Rybrook Board of Trustees. Whereas William Villanova has been on the Rye Town Board and serving the residents since January 2006, as a council member and deputy supervisor since 2008, and whereas William Villanova has many accomplishments in his 12 years on the Rye Town Board, which included reducing town taxes, reducing town government, eliminating wasteful spending, reducing expenses, and whereas William Villanova also worked to increase transparency by televising the Rye Town Board meetings and increasing opportunities for intermunicipal agreements and shared services, and whereas William Villanova increased accuracy of town property records, invested in Crawford Park and Rye Town Parks, identified opportunities for the Village of Mamaroneck to maximize the use of the town's assessing department, and whereas William Villanova, during his tenure, promoted and championed the implementation of best business practices, enhanced responsiveness to town residents, and create a vision for the future of Rye Town. And whereas William Villanova refused own town benefits even when he was grandfathered in, and supported an environment of accountability for all department heads, and championed increased education opportunities in the budget to better train all town staff so they could provide a best-in-class workforce to the residents. And whereas William Villanova moved the town municipal offices to 222 Grace Church Street, joining the offices of the New York State Senate, New York State Assembly, and the Village of Portchester, and making it a one-stop convenience for residents. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Paul S. Rosenberg, Mayor of the Village of Rybrook, on behalf of the Board of Trustees and the entire community, hereby commemorate William Villanova for his exemplary service to the town of Rye.
We better just stack them up there. I think we may have somebody else. Assemblyman Frank Ferrara. We're going to save the best for last. Frank Ferrara, trustee of the Village of Portchester.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Good evening, everyone.
Bill, last week when Mayor Fritz called to tell me that he couldn't make tonight and asked if I'd fill in for him, I was delighted because I've known you for quite some time. And unlike perhaps a lot of people, because you're pretty quiet about it, I know that you are the paradigm of a public servant. We are here tonight to celebrate Bill's 12 years on the board, but Bill's public service goes so much deeper than that. He's a former captain in the volunteer Portchester Fire Department. Thank you for your service, Bill. He's a vice commander in the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary, and a decorated one at that. And for the last, is it 14 years? You've been on our zoning board in the village of Portchester, and more importantly than that, most of those years you've been our chairman, and you do an exemplary job, and we thank you for that. But as I said, tonight we celebrate your 12 years on the board, and I believe the last 10 as deputy supervisor, and I blew up the proclamation because at my age, even with glasses, I can't read the print that's this small any longer. So I'll just read a portion of the proclamation. Among his many accomplishments, William J. Villanova has increased transparency, reduced town taxes, reduced town government, eliminated wasteful spending, reduced expenses, right-sized staffing and facilities, increased opportunities for intermunicipal agreements and shared services, increased accuracy of town property records, invested in Crawford and Rye Town parks, enhanced responsiveness to town residents, and most importantly of all, as far as I'm concerned, created a vision for the future of Rye Town. Bill, for all you've done, for all I know you'll continue to do, deepest thanks from the village of Portchester, and I have this proclamation signed by the mayor and the board.
Assemblyman Otis.
It is an honor for me to be able to be here and congratulate you on 12 years. You have been a leader on the Town of Rye Board, but more importantly, as everyone here knows, you are part of everything that goes on in Portchester and the Town of Rye, and 12 years is a good run on the town board, but that isn't the beginning or the end of your service to the community. What I know is, I know you are a caring person. You care about this community. It is in your heart. You care about the kids. You care about the families. You care about how things turn out. And I have a proclamation from the assembly that I'm actually not going to give you because I caught a typo, and we're going to clean it up and give it to you right. But I'm going to shake your hand and tell you that I appreciate what you do for the town and what you do for the village and what you do for everybody around here. And I know it comes from your heart, and that's the most important thing. People should appreciate the devotion and the dedication that you gave to this, because it was with your heart and soul. And thank you and congratulations. Honor for me to be able to be here and celebrate your service.
Thank you.
It really exists. You're going to get the corrected version.
I'm going to go down there. Senator Latimer asked me to convey this proclamation from the state senate. Now, Senator Latimer is not going to be our senator anymore because he's going to be our county executive. So this is a high honor. I normally don't read all of these things, but I'll read this entire proclamation. Whereas a great state is only as great as those persons who give exemplary service to their community, whether through participation in voluntary programs, through unique personal achievements in their professional or other endeavors, or simply through a lifetime of good citizenry. And whereas the vitality of any community is contingent upon the recognition of those individuals who have labored in the best interests of their fellow citizens, and whereas history has often taught us that the merit of any society can and will be measured by the actions of those individuals who, by way of unparalleled exhibitions of diligence and conviction, inspire those fortunate enough to bear witness. And whereas William Villanova is such an individual who, through his selfless dedication to the residents of Rye Town, has displayed a level of compassion and integrity worthy of the highest praise, and whereas William Villanova, Deputy Supervisor since 2008, is retiring after serving 12 years on the Town Council, and whereas William Villanova has been instrumental in increased board transparency, televising town meetings, reduction of town taxes, eliminating wasteful spending. I think you've heard this one before. Reducing expenses, increasing opportunities for intermunicipal agreements and shared services, and accuracy of town property records. Whereas William Villanova will be missed by all those who have worked with him and by those who he represented. Whereas it is with a proud sense of obligation that this assembled body recognizes not only the exemplary devotion that William Villanova has exhibited in years of service to the town of Rye, but in his vision and leadership as well, and resolved that as a duly elected member of the State Senate of New York, I recognize that in William Villanova we have an outstanding citizen, one who is worthy of the esteem of both the community and the great state of New York. George Latimer. I think that there are a lot of things in here, especially that apply to you, Billy. Your level of compassion and integrity, your attention to detail is beyond most people that I've ever met. Oh, and this is from the town of Rye. Who could that be? I'm not going to repeat all of that, but this recognizes the family of William J. Villanova and his lovely wife Sandra, his children Gianna, William Jr., Nicholas, and his mother, Joanne. And it is resolved that the town of Rye recognizes that Tuesday, December 19th, 2017 shall be known as William J. Villanova Day within the town of Rye. And we also have congratulations from the Portchester Rybrook Rye Town Chamber of Commerce for years of dedicated service and outstanding contributions. Let me just say this. When I became town supervisor 2 years ago, Billy was a deputy supervisor, and I had absolutely no thoughts of changing that. Billy has been a right hand. Much of the time, he's actually been a pain in the butt because he's always on top of everything, asking questions. Why are we doing that? Why are we spending money on this? And I've been hard put sometimes to answer him, but his questions are always good ones. Sometimes we haven't agreed on things initially, but in the end, we've always come to an agreement as to what was best for the town. And Billy has shown such initiative over the years, and he's been such a help to me personally, knowing what's going on in this town far better than anybody that I know. Every detail, people come to him and talk about things, and he comes to me, he comes to the other council members asking, did you know about this? Did you know about that? What are we going to do about it? He's always on top of everything. And Billy, you are absolutely indispensable, and I will miss you.
Thank you, Gary.
One other thing. We have a gift for you. Let's go over here where she can take a picture. Billy, from the town of Rye to you.
Thank you.
Can I open it? Sure.
cufflinks. Thank you. I'm going to say a few words. Is that all right?
I got to talk first.
Oh, all right. Well,
You have to wait a minute, Bill.
I'll put my cufflinks in while you talk.
Okay, I have a letter here from Joe Carvin, the former town supervisor. He sent me an email. It says, "Dear Bill, I'm sorry I could not be there with you tonight, but I did want to make certain that my sincere sentiments and gratitude were publicly expressed and read into the public record. It is hard to believe that you and I first met 14 years ago when we ran for town council. I came in fourth out of 4 candidates, and you were the first Republican elected to the town board in years. I am confident that most people looking back on that election day would agree that your election to the town board was a critical turning point in terms of bringing good government practice to the town of Rye. Outnumbered 4-1, working by yourself, you fought valiantly to bring best practice government to the town of Rye. The hard work you put in those 2 years paved the way for good government platform we were able to put in place over the course of the next 8 years. Bill, I have always been amazed at your zeal for public service and numerous public sector activities you undertake, for the Coast Guard to the fire department to the town. The town of Rye was lucky to have you, and as you look back on our 14 years of service, please know that your work was at the center of one of the most profound governmental transformations in New York State history. With sincere gratitude for all the hard work you invested in our community, Joe." I have one thing I have to say. Remember when I got elected for superintendent of highways?
Yes.
Okay. I was nervous as all hell because I was going into something I knew nothing about. After I got sworn in, we were in the elevator and you told me, "Relax, you'll do fine." I says, "But I don't know how to do the report. I never did a report before." You told me the guidelines that I have that we do now, the way John's doing it, was because of the way you told me to do it. And you helped me along the way, and I consider you a good friend, and you're going to be missed sitting on the board.
I just want to take a moment just to say one thing, because I think I'm one of the few people in the room who've known and worked with Billy since the beginning in different capacities. And everything that's been said on these proclamations and resolutions are true. And there's just one more point I want to underline, and that's ethics. And if those of you out there and those of you in the audience are listening carefully, what you're really hearing about Billy Villanova is that he's a really ethical person, and he's an ethical public servant, and he has a great ethical core. And from the town attorney's point of view, seeing him conduct himself as a councilman, and also seeing him conduct himself as a candidate for public office, whether it's town council or whatever, he always conducted himself in an ethical manner, honest and ethical government. And that's what we can all strive for. And he's a great example. So thank you.
Are we doing this now, or are we?
We'll do it later.
No, sit down. Since everybody's embarrassing me, that'll teach me for coming in late. I apologize for being late. I was at my daughter's middle school concert, so trying to do 2 things at once. Very simply, Billy, thank you for stepping up and answering the call for public service and civic responsibility, for serving our town and our community so well. Thank you for your stewardship and your mentorship for all of us. You're the longest serving member of the town council, and we leaned on you greatly. And above all else, thank you for your friendship, and that will continue. Best wishes.
make you cry?
You did? A little choked up. So, when thinking about how I first got started in campaigns and politics, I quickly remember back to when my mother was president of the Ryantown Women's Republican Club, and I would help transport paperwork for her on my bicycle. And that was my first taste of politics, along with the many meetings and events at our home. So let's fast forward to 15 years ago, and when I had my sights set on the Rye-Town Board, and after months of municipal review and all the many FOIL requests, we, the campaign team, created a platform to get our candidates elected. And our first attempt was unsuccessful. And being the tenacious person that I am, I ran again, and this time I won. The first new person elected to the town board for the better part of 2 decades. So now I was able to get to work and make a difference in the town. I began by televising town meetings, and this helped me create awareness of Rye Town and allowed me to share my vision with, and message directly with the residents. And this was well before Twitter. That was a joke, and Sir laughs right there. For the next 2 years, I kept my campaign promises and maintained my campaign platform, and through hard work and another campaign, we were able to gain majority of the Rye Town Board 10 years ago. Being in the majority for 8 years, we were able to reduce taxes and expenditures and right-size government. And our current board, I'm very proud to say, has a similar focus on implementing responsible budgeting practices, as well as major focus on improvements in the parks operated by the town, and that's been led by Supervisor Zuckerman. Needless to say, I have experienced success with all 3 administrations that I have had the pleasure to serve with. And I can say without hesitation that I've been honored to represent the residents of Rye Town for the past 12 years. With that, I want to express my gratitude to many people. First, to the residents of Rye Town. Thank you for your votes and allowing me to serve as your representative. To my friends and relatives, and many supporters who walked door to door with me while I campaigned, who put up signs and made very generous donations, thank you. To my political party chairmen and district leaders, thank you for securing signatures on petitions and ensuring I was able to run on multiple party lines. A special note of thanks to Dan Panacea, Janos Richards, Doug Colte, Hugh Fox, Doc Cavallo, Pat Lagana, Paul Noto, and especially a good friend to all of us, Sam Terenzi. Sam, you are gone, but certainly not forgotten. To the supervisors, Bob Morbito, who always reminded me that while we may have disagreed on the board, we must remember to leave our disagreements at the meeting. To Joe Carvin, who opened my eyes to a different way of thinking, aka cosmopolitanism, and allowed me to grow as a man and a public servant alongside him. His friendship I will forever value. And to Gary Zuckerman, who allowed me to be part of his team and always encouraged my participation and in turn supported my position on many issues as well as several town initiatives. Thank you, Gary. To the town staff, thank you. You have been and remain the backbone of our town. It is through your efforts that we, Rye Town, are able to achieve year-over-year success. And to the new Rye Town employees, thank you for your decision to join Rye Town. It is through your enthusiasm that I have seen our town celebrate new events and connect with generations of families throughout our communities. Finally, thank you to my family. You have endured many campaigns and numerous negative attacks, and through it all we remained strong and stayed positive. While I may not have won each election, Steve still here? Nice to- I will say one thing about Steve Otis. It's not too often that you continue down this path. You know, very few people run for election and then are either still in public service or continue to run. But I was thankful to run a great campaign. Steve and I ran for the same office, Assembly. Steve won, and we have a great representative in the state for that. And I want to, thank you, Steve, for being a great candidate, and it was a pleasure running with you. So that's important to know, right? Thank you. So, I was always proud to have run positive campaigns and represent the Villanova family with honor, dignity, and respect. I've been asked, why didn't I run again? Many of you even said you would most likely run unopposed. My answer and decision was clear, that I believe that Rye Town is certainly headed in the right direction, and my efforts are now best served on other projects and initiatives throughout the town where I can continue to make a positive impact. I will leave you with one of my favorite quotes from Teddy Roosevelt. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows the ends, in the end, the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Thank you. May God bless the town of Rye, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you. And just as you know, that when I first came on the board, Hope Vespia was kind enough to give me the town prayer. So I'm going to give it back to Hope.
Get through it.
I was good till I said Hope's name.
Why does Hope make you cry? Billy, thank you again. It's been an honor sitting next to you these 2 years, and as I said earlier, you're going to be missed, but life goes on, and our new councilwoman, Jill Axelrod, is sitting in the audience, observing, ready to take over in January, and I'm sure she will be a credit to you and to the town of Rye. I think that you've heard a lot of the comments, and they're all true. One thing that I wanted to say, I know that you mentioned some of the political people that you've been involved with, but in the 2 years that we've sat together on this board, I am honored to be able to say partisan politics has played absolutely no role in anything that has occurred here. Democrat, Republican, Conservative, we all sit here and we all act in the best interests of the town, and I've never once heard anybody say, I have to vote this way or that way because I am a Republican or a Democrat or a Conservative or anything else. We are truly a nonpartisan board, even though we are all members of political parties. We all act in the best interests of the town as we see it. And I think we've had very, very few votes that were not unanimous. There have been some, but that's not because everything is so easy. I think there's just a consensus that we've built up over the last couple of years that we're headed in the same direction, and we're all trying to get there to make the town of Rye a better place. And I think, Billy, you have been an integral part of that and a partner all along the way, and I thank you for that.
Thank you, Gary.
We are now at the part of comments from the public, so anybody else can say anything they want, if you would like to. You can say anything you want. We can do it now. We'll get to the formal part of the meeting. This is a good time to do it.
Okay. Billy, we've known each other for many years, even before you came on board, and I always valued your friendship, and you've always been a delight to see. You've always been so polite and friendly. And when you came on board, you brought spark to the board. you could always tell you did your homework because you always gave, put so much input, but valuable input to the board. And I learned a lot from you because I wasn't always the town clerk. I was the receiver of taxes, but you made this job interesting, but good. And I thank you for all your encouragement, and I thank you for being a good friend. And God bless you in everything you do.
Thank you.
You have a beautiful family. I love them all.
Thank you.
All right, if there are no further comments. Oh, Lindsay.
I was on the other side of the table, so I didn't get to run up to the podium without knocking people down. But I just wanted to thank Billy. He's truly been an inspiration. I know returning home from college and getting involved in politics and knowing that there are other conservatives out there, even ones that can get elected to the town board, was really something inspiring. And I was always encouraged by that and what you had done coming into the town board. And as this is my first term, and I remember starting off last year, and anything I needed, you were there to guide and help and talk out any issues that came forth. I feel like I'm getting my training wheels taken off now because you're leaving. But I think it's great, and I wanted to thank your family, your kids, your wife, your mother for sharing Billy with us for so long, because serving on this board and all the other community events you do, it's time away from home, and you truly have set the standard for me going forward, and I know everyone else you've served with. So thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you.
Thank you all.
I'd like to add my voice to this. I've known Bill Villanova for about 10 years, I'd say, since you were running for office. First in my capacity as the president of the League of Women Voters. You were my very first candidates forum that I organized for. I would say that coming on the staff of the town of Rye with your role as a leader has raised everyone's game. And I think that the town of Rye is better for it. We as professionals are better for it. And the hard questions you ask and the performance that you require says volumes about your values and makes us all better for what we are. And you've done it with tremendous integrity, and I want to thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I guess it's time for a meeting. Up, there's some.
I don't have a comment, but I just wanted to take a picture with my husband and our kids because they've got about 5 more minutes before they melt down.
Sure, let's do that. Let's do that. And that's, by the way, that's normally these celebrations come at the end of a meeting, but it came at the beginning because we have a young family here that has to leave.
Do they want to come up to the table? And we can...
No, they're in front of the thing.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, come on, Mom.
Uh-oh.
You know what? I should mention my mother. My mother was, Ma, how long were you the deputy town clerk of the town of Rye? 20, how many years? Well, let's just say for over 20 years, my mother was the deputy town clerk for the town of Rye. And she had the town clerk's office every Monday night from 7 o'clock, so from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock every night for probably over 20 years. Thank you, Mom. Stand up,
And I think we thanked everyone but Billy's kids. Thank you guys for loaning us your dad.
And my
all
good
this
friends in
time.
the background, the Grecos, the Pagnatas, Renee Carlucci, my daughter's godmother. Thank you for coming tonight, because I love you all. Especially love you, Lou.
We're going to McShane's after.
Thanks. See you tomorrow.
Oh, it's just a burger, okay.
Our first item, unimportant as the rest of the agenda is a public hearing on local law number 5 for the year 2017, a local law to improve and strengthen the sustainable energy loan program. And may I have a motion and a second to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Okay. I believe we have somebody to speak on this. Is that true?
Mark?
Yes, we do. I thought I saw you there. Introduce yourself and tell us what this is about, please.
So I'm Mark Thielke. I'm the Executive Director of the Energy Improvement Corporation. And I have to say, just before I give my remarks, I've been to hundreds of meetings, town board meetings, county board meetings, and this is something special. So congratulations, and sorry that you're leaving.
Thank you.
But it sounds like you put in quite a bit of service, and it sounds like the town's much better. So congratulations. But
Thank you.
Off to business. So I am I've been this third time I presented in front of the town board. What's unique about the situation today is that the Article 5L statute that has enabled the Sustainable Energy Loan Program here in the town has changed at the state level. So through really a housekeeping measure, the local law number 2, which was passed on March 23rd, I believe, of this year, needs to be amended and essentially conforms now, or would conform with the Article 5L changes at the state level. So just to give some background, the Sustainable Energy Loan Program, which also is better known as Energize New York Property Assessed Clean Energy Finance, or PACE Finance, is a public benefit authorized by New York State Statute Article 5L and enabled here in the town, again, through local law number 2 of 2017. PACE financing helps commercial and not-for-profit property owners that wish to install energy efficiency improvements and or install renewable energy improvements with low-cost capital that is repaid on the property tax bill of the property. In September of 2017, the New York State Legislature and Governor Cuomo amended Article 5L to make PACE more accessible to energy efficiency and renewable energy projects and to expand the availability of PACE to all counties of the state, including municipalities which have lower credit ratings. The amendments to Article 5L require the town to amend the existing local law to conform to Article 5L. In addition, what's also under consideration tonight is the town council must authorize the supervisor to execute the Energy Improvement Corp municipal agreement, which governs the provision of PACE financing within the town. It also authorizes EIC to work on behalf of the town in the provision of the public benefit of PACE. So we're a classic shared service local development corporation. We're owned and controlled by the counties, cities, and townships of Westchester that wish to offer PACE. So I'll stop there to see if there's any questions or comments.
Questions? Tony?
So, Mark, is this really just an expansion of what we passed back in March? Is there any material difference between the resolution, or is it just the expansion of it?
There is some differences.
Okay.
So, the key changes at the state level are going to, again, expand and make PACE more available. So, one of the key differences is that there was an artificial cap, a 10% loan-to-value cap on the amount of financing we could offer. That's been removed.
Okay.
And so our board now has instituted a cap of 35%. That cap can be modified per our member, so it can be 10, it can be 15, 20, but we now have a cap that's much higher because many of the projects that were coming to us were not able to be financed at that low cap. So the legislature took that on and basically approved that for that recommendation.
Okay.
In addition, New York State and NYSERDA has issued guidelines related to the cost effectiveness of each measure. So we're conforming now to the guidelines of NYSERDA, which did not exist prior to the amendments to the statute. So all these are essentially strengthening how PACE is offered. It's expanding the availability of PACE to local commercial and not-for-profit building owners. The other aspects don't really relate to the town in the sense that we can now expand the membership to EIC to counties and cities that have lower credit ratings. So all these are important. One other aspect is that we now are able to consider a solar product called community solar. So where properties that maybe cannot take a solar system on their own roof and need to maybe purchase solar power from another property, we now have the ability to consider issuing a product based on that new authorization. It wouldn't happen until our local members decide to do so, but again, it opens the door for, again, additional accessibility for renewable energy. So there are some material changes, but it's all, again, strengthening what we hope to see here, which is much more energy efficiency and renewable energy.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions? Motion to close the public hearing? Unless there's anybody else in the public wish to speak on this? Seeing none. Motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion.
Second, please.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Resolution adopting local law number 5 for 2017, which obviously Mr. Thiel King just explained. May I have a motion and a second for that?
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Councilperson Jackson?
Yes.
Councilperson Nardi?
Yes.
Councilperson Baxter?
Yes.
Councilperson Villanova?
Yes.
And Supervisor Zuckerman?
Yes. Thank you all.
Okay.
Second public hearing tonight is on our 2018 preliminary budget. This is a continuation. It's already been open and held over. Is there anybody who would like to speak on the preliminary budget? Dave, do you have any comments? I believe that there was one minor change.
There were some line item changes from the preliminary budget, but overall, the budget is a flat tax budget from 2017 to 2018. Tax levy of $248,433. There's an appropriation of fund balance of $190,000. So overall, there was no changes from preliminary budget. There was numerous budget workshop shop sessions with the board to come up with a budget of a flat tax. And since it's Bill Villanova Day, I just have a couple comments. This is our 12th budget working together, and I can say Bill worked as hard on this budget as he did on every budget. So there was no lame duck philosophy, and he made the town employees work harder and be more accountable and more transparency, all of those things that were said tonight. But I think in the numbers part of it, because there's a lot of written and verbal words tonight, when Billy started, the tax levy was substantially higher, and it's been decreasing every year. The fund balance reserve is, to start the year, was $4.8 million, and it was just a little over $1 million back then. So his hard work was a key part of it. So I thank you for that, making me more accountable and being more transparent and working to make the town better and more accountable for its finances.
We're going to create a new position. It's going to be voluntary. It's going to be called Budget Advisor.
Right.
And Billy's going to be brought in to make sure that all of this continues.
That's assuming we can afford him, you know.
I said voluntary.
Voluntold.
He wouldn't want it to be a line item, no.
Definitely not. You know, just because we're talking about this, and I don't want to take all your time, Dave, but when I first, even before I was on the board, when I was a candidate, I may have come at Dave pretty hard with budget questions, and if I haven't apologized in the past, Dave, I want to apologize to you now for being so aggressive with my questions with you, and I never.
No need.
All right, but I when you're so passionate about running for office and identifying certain things, and it's hard, to get your point across or to identify certain things. And Dave, you've always been an incredible professional, and you've been a good friend to me in the town, and I appreciate it. I really do. And I've seen Dave in multiple positions in the town, and he really is a consummate professional. And Dave, you are really one of the reasons why the town of Rye is where it is all your hard work. Thank you.
And I echo that.
Thanks.
Thank you, David.
Okay. Can I stay up here for one? So before, well, we can, tonight we're asking the board to adopt the budget as submitted. I have one other item after that, which is the in-rem, or the tax receivables, if I'm.
Why don't we do the budget and you can stay there?
Okay.
Okay? And so first, may I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing on the budget?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, the resolution to approve the 2018 preliminary budget.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll on that one, please.
Councilperson Jackson.
Yes.
Councilperson Nardi.
Yes.
Councilperson Baxter.
Yes.
Councilperson Villanova.
Yes.
And Supervisor Zuckerman.
Yes. Thank you. Dave, you want to continue with?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes. The other piece that's very important for the town is the tax receivables, that the tax receiver, is very diligent with his department in collecting the taxes. But there are unpaid taxes, and, we have a number, and I revised the report to summarize it to make it a little bit more concise. It is now 4 pages. The first page is the total taxes outstanding as of November 30th. And again, that's another area that Bill Villanova had a key part, focusing on the in-rem taxes, the tax receivables, to address that issue and to be consistent in manner and to collect the in-rem taxes and to have procedures in place. So in the last, the third and fourth page is the in-rem taxes that are outstanding from 2016 and prior. There's 8 properties that are on that list. And then on the next page is the 2000, or class of 2017 in-rem taxes. There was 26 to start, 2 have paid, and normally there's still a substantial amount that have unpaid. And our in-rem attorney here, Dan Battaglia, is here as well, and he works on those issues. So, we're down as of November 30th to below 2% in outstanding taxes, and that's a big improvement over the years. And with a $4.8 million fund balance to start the year, the town is in a very good position, so it doesn't have to borrow for outstanding taxes.
That's always a good thing.
Yes.
Dan, do you want to say anything about any of the in-rems going forward? Sure, while Davey's up there, we might as well cover it all.
If you look at Schedule B, I can tell you about a number of these. You'll see there's a number of them that are in the same ownership. It's either Blue Mountain Partners or All New York Holding LLC. These are all in the same ownership. I've had conversations with this property owner. They're in the process of a closing, refinancing another piece of property, and anticipate in the next month we'll be paying all of these taxes, which is close to $900,000. So that's a substantial chunk of this. I've also had conversations with others that are expecting to pay soon. We have just received, about 2 weeks ago, we received all the title reports on these, and we're going through them now so that we can get this class of in-rem started. So there's every expectation that we'll be able to collect most of all of this very soon. On the Schedule A, the 145 Highland Street and 141 Highland Street, if you recall that one, we redid the in-rem on that because we had missed some of the judgment creditors on that to make it cleaner so that the sale would be better. That has all been submitted to court, and we're waiting. There's been no opposition papers by anybody, including the property owner or any of the judgment creditors. We're just waiting for a judge's signature on that decision. As soon as that occurs, we'll be filing the deed on behalf of the town, and there's already been individuals have reached out who have an acute interest in acquiring these properties. So I believe that once we get that court order, these two properties will sell quickly.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Dan. Okay. Minutes. Approval of minutes for the meeting held November 21. May I have a motion and a second if there are no additions or corrections?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. I think we've already had comments from the public. First resolution is a proposed personal electronic device policy. I think this is an initiative of our deputy supervisor, one of many. I don't know if we're ready to vote on this evening, if you've had a chance to look at it. It's gone through about 3 or 4 drafts. If you'd like, we could discuss it. If somebody would like to, actually, we don't have a formal resolution, or actually, we could just adopt it if we wanted to, or we could wait until next month. What is your pleasure?
I'll go with the pleasure of the board. I think that, as I mentioned in the past, I think having a device policy, I think having to be inclusive of computers, desktops, and the data that is contained is very important. And having an inventory of all personal devices owned by the town that are used by town employees and accounting for all of these items. There's value to the item, but it's not necessarily worth as much as the data that's associated with the laptop or the iPad or the cell phone. So I think it's very important to have this in place so there's a little bit more accountability.
All right.
Do we know how many of these we have?
We do. There's 2 tablets that are assigned to the assessor's department. There are 2 tablets, each assigned to the supervisor's office and the clerk's office. There are 3 laptops, one in the supervisor's office, one in the clerk's office, one in the assessor's office.
Okay.
That's it.
No cell phones.
It would be my, I guess, feeling that we should vote on this today since Councilman Villanova has really spearheaded this effort, and I'd like to see him vote on it since he's put a lot of work into it. And
I must say, it's very well done. I don't know who's responsible for the authorship of the policy, but it really does read very well, and I think it covers everything. So kudos to the author.
I think that goes mostly to Debbie.
Kudos.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I do agree strongly with the intention of this policy, as you can replace devices, but the information, the data, what's on those devices sometimes is irreplaceable. So.
All right. So may I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Next resolution is the seamless docs. It says contact. I think you mean contract.
That's exactly what we need.
So, Debbie, you want to tell us what this is about? I think we know, but
So as you know, a year ago, we undertook a massive redesign of the town's website and committed ourselves to becoming a paperless environment. To that end, we contracted with Seamless Docs, and it's also known as Seamless Gov, to spearhead that redesign and also provide us with the facility to have dynamic documents so that it wasn't necessary for people to download a PDF and then fill it in by hand and then walk it in or mail it in or scan it in to the office. So instead, we're stepping into the electronic world. So what you're looking at now is the renewal of that relationship.
And the price?
And the price is $10,000.
I know, is
believe.
it the same as last time?
Same,
Okay.
no change.
Right. Unless there's any further discussion, may I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Call the roll, please.
Councilperson Jackson?
Yes.
Councilperson Nardi?
Yes.
Councilperson Baxter?
Yes.
Councilperson Villanova?
Yes.
And Supervisor Zuckerman?
Yes. The next item is a discussion of drug screening for town employees. Again, this is an initiative of our deputy supervisor. We're not prepared to vote on anything tonight. We have before us the Town of Rye current personnel manual mandating a drug-free workplace. And it lists, it's 2 pages or so of requirements and talking about state policy, et cetera. I just say that by way of initiating discussion. Bill, do you have anything you'd like to add to, as to a direction that you'd like the board to follow on this?
Certainly. Having the drug-free workplace in our personnel manual is very important. It helps the town of Rye when we're making application for grants, having a program in place that we are a drug-free environment, drug-free workplace is important for those items. But I think that it's important for us to take a hard look at it and put an actual drug screening program in place for all Rye-Town employees. I think, obviously, I won't be on the board. Hopefully, when you approve this, I'll be the first one to come back and go for my drug screen. But I think it's important that we do this. We have a lot of opportunities where we could have employees that we may not specifically know the background or what is happening when they are not working. And given that we have an incredibly dynamic town operating with parks, with vehicles, and constant interaction with families and children throughout our parks and the beach, I think taking that one step forward and having drug screening, I think, would be a step in the right direction. And I think it's the right way to go. The current drug-free workplace is very passive. And ultimately, it's incumbent upon the employee to turn to the employer and say, I was arrested for possession. I was arrested for usage, things of that nature. And I think we should take that step forward. So,
thank you. Any comments from the other council members?
I just want to say I agree with Councilman Villanova because it's his last day. No, I'm joking. I agree with Councilman Villanova very much, and I know that my workplace, we have this. My question would be sort of for the board, and this would be a broader question, is who would be covering the costs of these tests for the employees, and are we going to use one particular agency? I know there are certain establishments that people go to that do the drug screens. Westchester County has one that does their drug testing, for example. So that would be my question.
Well, I think, Debbie, don't we have the company that does our background checks at Wrightown Park, or something like that?
Yeah, that's right. The company that does our background checks, both for the town and for the park, does conduct drug testing, if that's a service that we want. I would also want to check with the Employees Assistance Bureau, because certainly if we're going to be going into this space, making sure that we have a relationship, a subscription with an organization that can provide counseling, I think is extremely important.
I don't think this is something we can decide tonight in terms of the parameters. This is an opening discussion.
Yeah.
I'm sure our new councilwoman will have some views on this when she sits up here.
I'm all for this, but with the heroin epidemic that's going on around here, if we did get an employee, would we be offering them any counseling? I mean, first of all, they're gonna have to wanna do it because it's an illness, and if they don't recognize the illness, going to counseling or rehab's not gonna do it. They have to wanna do it. But are we gonna give them the opportunity to go to rehab instead of just plain out letting somebody go?
Those are discussions that
Yeah.
that we would have, absolutely.
And I would think that if we're looking at this at the onset, before we hire somebody, in other words, if this is part of the initial
Pre-hire.
screening and pre-hire, and we would do it pre-hire,
Okay.
I would think it would be a town expense.
Are you gonna be
The
doing
town-
it to?
Well, I mean, that's, in other words, every time that I've experienced, it's been at the onset of employment.
Well, yeah, and for employment, but
Right.
are you also thinking about doing it with people that already work for the town? Because I know, like, one of the supply houses I go to, the Teamsters Union, they have a truck that just spontaneous, all of a sudden the truck is there. As soon as the driver comes in, he's tested.
Either way, I think it's a town expense,
Well, I think if we're
if we're
gonna
requiring it.
if we're gonna do that, we have to set up a reasonable suspicion policy, so we can't just.
You
Right.
just can't go and
I think-
test somebody, you
Exactly.
gotta
And-
have a reason.
These are all
The
questions,
understanding, oh, sorry.
these are all questions that are properly asked and that we would have to look into.
Yeah. I just want to make one comment about the ongoing screening, is that the town of Rye, the board legislatively, would determine a percentage of town employees that will be screened each year. And so the employees don't know when it's coming, and not to keep anybody on their toes or to do anything, adversely, but bottom line is that if you're thankful, if you're lucky enough to work for the town of Rye and get paid by the taxpayers, you should be drug-free.
I agree.
Thank you. Thank you. And now, we have several resolutions regarding tax certs. First one was adjourned from last time, 22 Orchard Street in Portchester. Is there anybody to present on that, or, I think we went over this, I think that.
It's just the correction of the address, right?
This is a correction. This is all correct?
Right.
Okay, so we can go forward with this? May I have a motion and a second to approve?
So moved.
I'll second.
Well, call the roll, please.
Councilperson Jackson?
Yes.
Councilperson Nardi?
Yes.
Councilperson Baxter?
Yes.
Councilperson Villanova?
Yes.
And Supervisor Zuckerman?
Yes. The next next two are very important. Dan will present, this is resolution approving the tax cert for Rexon Operating Partnership.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The Rexon Operating Partnership had this is International Drive, the office buildings that are there. They had a number of years in, going back to 2011. This settlement is going to result in an enormous refund for the Blindbrook School District and for the Village of Rybrook, and unusually even for the town of Rye. We were pleased to be able to settle this based upon corrected AV numbers that were higher than our appraisal numbers. So our appraisal numbers actually came in lower than these corrected AV numbers that you see here. Before we exchanged appraisals with the petitioner on this, we were able to negotiate. So, while it was a successful negotiation, it's still going to result in a refund from the school district of about $3.2 million, from the Village of Rybrook about $990,000, and from the town of Rye about $7,300. Just by way of example, if we had settled at our appraised numbers, not their appraised numbers, our appraised numbers, the refund from the school district would have been $4.5 million. From from the village would have been 1.3 million, and the town of Rye would have been $10,550. We also found out that the property owner is in the process of selling these buildings, which is probably what precipitated bringing this toward a conclusion, which is actually a good thing because you see there were so many years out there. Does anybody have any questions?
I think the numbers speak for themselves.
Loudly.
And unfortunately, well, I say fortunately, you were able to effectuate a settlement above the appraised value of our appraiser. So, thank you. If there are no further questions, may I have a motion and a second?
I make the motion.
I'll second it.
Please call the roll.
Councilperson Jackson?
Yes.
Councilperson Nardi?
Yes.
Councilperson Baxter?
Yes.
Councilperson Villanova?
Reluctantly, yes.
And I'll put that down. And Supervisor Zuckerman?
I'm almost tempted to vote no, but I'll vote yes.
Don't you dare.
The next one is Doral Conference Center.
This one is also a large settlement. It did not have as many years filed, and they did not file on all of the parcels for all of the years. But because of the difficulties that the conference center has been experiencing, the valuation numbers came in on this significantly lower than the town was carrying them in terms of assessed value. Again, we were able to get a settlement on this for amounts that were higher than our own internal valuation numbers. So we were happy to effectuate that result, but it's still going to result in the school district paying a $1.6 million refund, the village paying a $500,000 refund, and the town's refund is going to be about $3,100. I know that the school district and the village are both going to bond to pay both of these refunds.
Are they payable immediately? In other words, once this is filed, they have to pay everything up front, or?
They're payable within a certain number of days, otherwise they start to carry interest. When we sat down in negotiations with Doral, they indicated to us that they needed to settle this and get their refunds within the first quarter, so everything's expected to be paid within the first 90 days of 2018. Any questions, anybody?
No.
Nope. May I have a motion and a second?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Reluctant second.
Please call the roll, Hope.
Councilperson Jackson?
Yes.
Councilperson Nardi?
Yep.
Councilperson Baxter?
Yes.
Councilperson Villanova?
Yes.
And Supervisor Zuckerman?
Yes. Our next item is to set a date for a public hearing for local law number 1 of 2018. Jeff, there's an error in the last resolve clause. It says hereby sets a public to consider. I think we need to insert the word hearing and to put a date, which would be the January meeting of January 16th. Am I correct, Debbie? That's the next meeting?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So with that correction, Jeff, do you want to just say what briefly this is? This is very interesting, and this benefits our veterans. So I think this is something that we would all be interested in and in supporting.
Is this working? There's a particular provision in New York State real property tax law that provides a property tax exemption for those who've served in periods of conflict, and this would allow the town to continue that exemption, and it is it's great for veterans.
There was a 10-year limit, and this removes the limit essentially. So, This is just a motion to set the public hearing because it's a local law. I have a,
So moved.
I will, with enthusiasm, second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Binder, can I just ask you a quick question? I see here that the legislation is for anyone who is discharged from 1945 to December 26, 1991. There's nothing for veterans who served later?
Not that the state enabling
Provides for.
legislation allows for.
Not for this law.
Not for this
There may
particular
be,
law.
there may be for, Iraq War veterans, et cetera.
Nick, do you know if there's any other, do you know if there's any other military personnel property tax exemptions post 91?
Many.
Denise?
Denise?
There's the alternate, alt war vet exemption that covers most periods of war. Cold War is very specific to the in-between periods, and the Cold War exemption only lasted 10 years, the way it was written by New York State. So this local law, which was recently adopted by the county, and was basically dictated by, not dictated or offered by New York State, allows that 10-year limit to be lifted. So there's no restriction.
Yeah, the county recently approved this for itself, yes.
Ones, and then we took their local law and we're trying to adopt.
Right, okay.
Could our local law go beyond 91?
No.
It's not specific to the periods.
No, I know, but in the resolution it talked about
Oh.
through 1991.
I think this tracks the state statute.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So locally, can we do that, or do we have to follow what the state does? In other words, could we make a local?
I don't know the answer to that,
Okay.
but we could look into it.
Okay.
Right now, we're tracking the state enabling language that they recommended that all the municipalities
Okay.
adopt.
I think we just voted, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
You have a date? You should have the
I
date.
just said, yeah,
Yeah, it's,
January
Yes,
16th.
Very good.
you'd be in Florida.
Public hearing on January 16th. The next item is the C-Box container. Debbie, do you want to explain what that is? I think this is very
I
interesting.
do. So in preparation for our renovations of Crawford Park, it was clear that we needed to find a place to store some of the things, some of the contents of the house that we were keeping. We'll be putting some things into the caretaker's house. However, we have a lot of tables and chairs that needed a location, and the suggestion was that to purchase on a temporary basis a used container identical to the one that the town owns currently, in which we store stuff, that is located directly next to a container of the same dimensions owned by the Village of Rybrook, in which they store some stuff, that would be a great solution. And so I posted an RFP with the assistance of Michael Nowak of the Village of Rybrook, and we have two bidders, and I'm proposing that we go with the lowest bidder and we buy that container and store our tables and chairs and other things that will fit in there for the duration of as long as we need them, and then with the intention that once we're finished, we'll get rid of it.
Sell it.
That's
And
it. Yes, sell it. Again.
Again, the items that are going to go in here are those that are not declared surplus, because the surplus items we're just getting rid of, like our coal. So it's not too early. It's not Christmas time yet. So if anybody wants to have coal to put in their Christmas stockings, we have plenty at Crawford Park.
Quick question. The C boxes that are there now, Town of Rye owns one, Rybrook owns one.
That's right.
Correct, okay. This one that we're getting, just a oddball chance, if we can get one that has doors on the long side in the center, one thing that I've seen with the C boxes is that it's great for storage for, in the case what we're doing now, for construction. Put it all in, take it all out, fine. But you have a problem when you stack it all in there. If you're trying to use it on a regular basis, you really need another door. If you plan on using it like the one that we have there now, I would just ask if there's one with the door on the end, and see if there's one that has a door in the center, and may give some more versatility to the people that are using it.
I've never seen that, but I suppose there could be.
Just an option.
I can always post for it and see if somebody offers.
Yeah, I wouldn't go
price.
crazy about it. I'm just thinking about use. That's all.
All right.
Deb, I just have a quick question because we're talking about temporary use for this and then with the intention to sell in the future. Did we look at the cost to rent a similar container and compare it?
We didn't. I was unaware that it's possible to rent a container.
I think we did look into that.
Well, we certainly looked at renting storage space.
Okay.
Councilman Nardi looked into that extensively, and frankly, it's every bit as expensive as this.
And I'm sure pod more for residential storage.
Well, the pods,
They're much smaller, but there's...
no, you can get them different sizes, the pods. You can get them different sizes. I don't know I didn't look into the pods, I only looked into self-storage places.
Okay.
And, but we can look into pods, that's easy.
Well, in the meanwhile, we may have to move stuff out fairly quickly, so
Yeah, let's
let us
move
approve
forward
this.
with this.
Do we have a motion and a second yet?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Call the roll, please.
Councilperson Jackson.
Yes.
Councilperson Nardi.
Yes.
Councilperson Baxter.
Yes.
Councilperson Villanova.
Yes.
And Supervisor Zuckerman.
Yes. The next item is a resolution, and with it is an intermunicipal agreement between the town of Rye and the village of Rybrook. And basically, this provides that the village of Rybrook will be plowing the roads to Crawford Park from Ridge Street to Lincoln Avenue. And the town of Rye is providing space for their day camp, which we have always done, but this just formalizes it and is just a way of, I guess, formalizing the arrangements we've always had, and we're, as people who have watched our meetings, we are entering into more and more intermunicipal agreements with Rybrook, with Portchester, and anybody else who will help us save money. So.
And the way this is done is with two agreements that they're entered into simultaneously, but he just conditioned on the other's performance. So we're going to plow and we're going to provide the facilities.
They owe us a couple of years, so I think we're all good for it.
And the camp happens there now?
Oh, yeah.
And there's not a conflict with the Council for the Arts, because I know they use the inside,
No-
right?
no conflict.
So the summer camp is outside?
Yeah.
And
Okay.
this is outside, so it won't be impacted by the construction that's, I mean, hopefully the construction will be done by then, but if things don't go as planned completely.
The construction on the mansion will definitely not be done by this summer. It will be ongoing, but it will be, the construction area will be kept well away from the day camp. And the day camp happens in the pavilion and in the fields, so there's no conflict there.
Okay.
All right. Motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please, Hope.
Councilperson Jackson.
Yes.
Councilperson Nardi.
Yes.
Councilperson Baxter.
Yes.
Councilperson Villanova.
Yes,
And
just
Sup-
one quick, I'm sorry, just one quick question. That this IMA only pertains to Village of Rybrook events, not organizations that use Rybrook in their name.
Right, Village of Rybrook.
Village of Rybrook.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
And Supervisor
Yes.
Zuckerman.
It's just a summer camp. Just a summer camp.
Yeah, it's just a summer camp, that's it.
I assume, do we have another report from the assessor? Or? Oh, we do.
Good evening, everyone. Actually, I have nothing to report. I just want to wish Bill Villanova well in your future endeavors. And I'd also like to wish everyone a happy holiday, along with the peace that transcends all understanding. And happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever everybody celebrates. I wish them well. And
Thank you.
Same.
Dave? Nothing? You've done it. Okay. Mr. Receiver of Taxes.
Mr. Supervisor, good evening. Mr. Deputy Supervisor Bill Villanova, with all my heart, I wish you good luck on your future. I've been friends with you since you were knee-high to a grasshopper. I went to school with your mother, so we know each other for a long, long time. Good luck. Thank
Holy
you for all
Rosary,
the-
Holy Rosary.
Holy Rosary.
Shout out to
correct.
Holy Rosary.
Good luck to all you
Class of
do
2002.
in the future, and may you have long life. Anyway, Mr. Supervisor, without appearing like Scrooge, it's time for the Village Portchester to pay their taxes, the second half. Now, the 31st falls on the weekend, on a Sunday. The Monday, we are closed because it's the New Year's holiday. You can come into the office the 2nd of January on a Tuesday and pay in person without penalty. It must, if it's mailed, it must be postmarked by the 31st of December, but you can come in personally without a penalty. Also, I have sent out the school bills early because of the fact that if you pay your bill by the 31st of December, you're allowed to deduct that on your income tax. If you wait till the due date, which is January 31st, 2018, you cannot deduct it on the 2017 tax. So that's why the bills were out there early, to encourage you to try and get it paid so you can deduct it. And I take this opportunity to wish everybody a very happy holiday period and a blessed, safe, peaceful New Year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Nick, I want to thank you for your thoughtfulness in getting those school bills out early. I personally received several calls from people who wanted to know if there was a way for them to pay it. And the fact that you sent the bills out early is obviously an indication that they can do it.
Yes, as a matter of
and
fact,
I think that
before I
was very
left the-
thoughtful of you to
Before
get
I
that
left
done.
the office, I looked, and there's $1 million in lockbox to post tomorrow.
Wow.
On the school bills. Okay, thank you.
Can I just?
Excellent.
I had one quick question. I'm sorry. Maybe Debbie can also add to this, and I guess I'm following in Billy's footsteps. When the taxes were due several months ago, there was an issue with the online payment system, and I know we've discussed
There was a
changing
big
it.
transition into security. They had 3 different companies working on it. It has since been ironed out, and it is running smoothly. But that's why there was a problem, because there was security issues. Now we have new companies that are processing it, and it seems to be working fine.
So we have changed companies.
We have not changed companies. We have
No,
stayed with the
they
company
did.
that Nick was using.
Yeah, the company themselves changed.
Okay.
It's a First Premier now, I believe, is handling the payments.
Right. So we don't.
It's strategically, it's my intention to review our providers and in the first quarter of 2018. And once we resolve the larger issue of our software provider, then we will handle the issue of who's taking the electronic payments.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nick. Town Clerk, you have submitted your report. Do you have anything else to add?
Gary, let me just say, I probably wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't offer a small disclaimer with respect to any tax advice with regard to the change in law. we do not, as a town, provide tax advice. Please check with your accountant for tax advice as it relates to the change in tax law and prepayment of any state and local taxes.
Thank you.
Due
Good
diligence
job.
done.
Okay, just
Do you have
have.
anything else to add?
I spoke to John DiCrescenzo today, and as Billy mentioned, his wife Donna passed away from an illness Thursday, and I told him how their hearts are with him, and he really appreciated it. And he said, Hope, always give someone a hug and tell them how much you care about them. He said, because things change so suddenly. So I wish all of you the very best for your Christmas, for your Hanukkah, for your Kwanzaa. I ask for the Lord to bless each one of us. And go home and hug somebody.
Thank you, Hope. That's
And
beautiful.
We wish you the best as well, and we also wish Mr. DiCrescenzo the best. We know how dedicated he was to his wife, and we're certainly with him. Our thoughts are with him. So,
Comments from the council? Anybody? Has everybody said their piece, or?
Well, I would just like to add, my condolences to John and his family. It happening so suddenly, I just wish him strength, and I hope he knows where he is, that we're all with him, no matter where he is. And just wish everybody a happy holiday.
same.
I'm just going down the line here.
Happy holidays, everybody. Happy New Year. And again, John, feel for you, and it's going to be, wish you the best during your difficult time. And Billy, good luck with your new endeavors,
Thank you, Tom.
So, and talk to you later.
Thank you.
Really?
Thank you. Just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, and 2 days left, right? 1 day, 2 days left, Hanukkah?
This is last night.
This is last night, right?
This is it.
Okay. And just want to acknowledge the hard work. We had, on December 8th, we had our first annual winter, what was the name of it, Sarah?
Holiday lighting.
Holiday lighting, the holiday lighting, that's right, Sarah. Oh, I'm sorry. She's like,
okay.
why are you putting me on the spot? So our holiday lights, and I just want to say that, if you haven't done so, please take a moment and drive through Crawford Park and look at what is there now. And Sarah, you and your team, Neva, Vivian, everybody that worked on that event, really it was exciting. And I see the town of Rye really going in a great direction, one that's filled with focus on family and our communities. And I want to thank Lindsay and Tom and Tony and Gary for working with me on the board. Debbie and Jeff alluded to and Dave alluded to my emails and my phone calls, and the truth is, I guess in some instances I'm very difficult to work with because I don't let anything go, and I keep copious notes, and I refer to them, and I'm always going back to emails, and because I can't get it off my mind until it's done. So I want to thank you for bearing with me, and it's like I apologized to Dave before, because Dave and I've gone back a long time with a lot of questions, and it's everything's done for the better of the town of Rye, not for any other reason. So I thank you for bearing with me, and really I thank the board for having me. Thank everyone. This has been a lot of fun, and also a lot of hard work. So,
And I want to thank, this is the last meeting of the year, unless something comes up where we have to have a special meeting, in which case you're going to have to come back. But I want to thank everybody on the board for all the hard work during the year, all the cooperation, and even you, Billy, even you with your hard-headedness and your doggedness and not letting anything go. But that's what makes it fun, because, you know, if everything was easy, it wouldn't be fun to do. You know, you feel a sense of accomplishment when it's hard. And the poem you read by Teddy Roosevelt, I have also read that many times, and it is absolutely a great guidepost. You have to get in there and you have to work at it. And to the staff, all of you, Sarah, Neva, everybody in who am I missing?
Vivian.
Vivian, all the people who helped, Brenda, who helped on the holiday lighting, our department heads, our elected officials, Davy, Denise, Hope, my attorney. It's also sometimes a pain in the you-know-what. And most of all to Debbie, who's been my right arm and has really, really made this town run well, considering that 2 years ago she was the president of the League of Women Voters, and now she is up there with the top administrators in this county, and I'm really proud of her. And Jill, welcome. We're going to look forward to you sitting up here. And
Yeah.
what's that? I didn't.
Big shoes to fill.
Yes, yes.
Size 12s, aren't they?
Yeah.
11. Depends on the shoe, the cut.
You'll have to put your feet this way, right? But again, I want to wish everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, anything that you celebrate that brings peace, joy, and love. And with that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.